The unmistakable sound of the Turtles here on the Vintage Rock and Pop Shop. That song, Happy Together, written by Gary Bonner and Alan Gordon, was a #1 hit in early 1967. It also provides the title for a new book chronicling the entire career of the Turtles, called Not Just Happy Together, The Turtles from A to Z, AM Radio to Zappa, by Mark Arnold and co-writer Charles Rosenay, who's our guest today, our returning guest, I should say. So welcome back to the show.
Great to be back.
Well, it's great to have you. And since your book covers every single song ever recorded by the Turtles, let's talk about that one, the one we just heard, Happy Together.
Okay, I tell you, it's right up there in my brain with God Only Knows and Daydream Believer and Here, There, and Everywhere. It's got to be one of the best pop songs ever recorded. And if you hear it once in the day, Imagine Me, and it's with you. You can't not. It's been in so many films, on so many soundtracks. The best way to say it is it's part of our musical DNA. And I've heard hundreds of versions of it, and I've never heard a bad one. It is such a great... Everything about it, the harmonies, the structure, the arrangement, the song is just, it's as good as it gets for a pop song, for an AM hit of its time.
Well, I think when people hear your name, they associate you with Beatles fandom, whether it's through the magazine you used to put out, Good Day Sunshine, or maybe your Beatles tours in Liverpool that you still host. But to find out that you're a Turtles fan, well, it's not too far afield from what we'd expect from you.
Go figure, right?
Yeah.
The Turtles, same era,
right?
But a whole nother playing field, I guess. You know, one is minor league, maybe one is the top echelons. Mm-hmm. But maybe that's the reason that this band needed some ink and some well-deserved recognition beyond the song "Happy Together."
Can you remember when you first heard the Turtles?
Well, hearing them, I'm sure, was on AM radio. Just when I was listening to the Beatles and the Monkees and the Four Seasons and on and on and on. But I have a better memory, and I even included it in the book. We had moved from New York, from the Bronx to Connecticut, and we would go back and forth a lot to visit old friends. And my mom couldn't get away from New York. We had to go like every other weekend. And in those days, there was this newfangled contraption called a cassette player. And we had the cassette player in the car so we could play songs and listen to cool stuff and sing along. We were singing family. And I didn't need Beatles and Monkees and Gary Puckett because I had those on vinyl.
Right.
So I had to go for a few things that I didn't have. The first one I got was the Turtles' Golden Hits. Then it was Tom Jones' Greatest Hits, and I think it was a Grand Funk album. I don't remember the order, but I do know that it was the Turtles one that we got first and the one that I played over and over and over until it probably ripped, as cassettes would do. But it was like, this is, to me, they were, it was pop genius. It was hit after hit.
We're talking with Charles F. Rosenay today on the Vintage Rock and Pop Shop. He's the co-author with Mark Arnold of a new book called Not Just Happy Together, The Turtles from A to Z, AM Radio to Zappa. So in this book, you're not just covering the hits, like the one we just played, She'd Rather Be With Me, but you're covering everything.
A little ridiculous, a little exhaustive. We covered every single song, every album, not just as the Turtles, but before they were the Turtles, they were the Crossfires. After they were the Crossfires and after they were the Turtles, they were Flo and Eddie. After that, they were with Zappa. So we try to make this the most complete, exhaustive, not just overview of the band, but kind of a discography. And we did it in a very fun way. And then Mark Arnold had done that before with Michael Ventrella on a Monkees book, where they did sort of a Siskel and Ebert thing, and they would list the song, and then each of them give their opinion on it. This was a little different in that Mark, granted, more scholarly. He's the archivist. He's the one who researched the date it was recorded and who was on it. I said, hey, it would have been better if the chorus was such and such. Hey, I love this because the middle eight sounds like such and such. You know, I was the fan of the music commenting as opposed to the expert, and it gives for an amazing read with the going back and forth between us.
Well, we've played 2 hits so far, so let's play something a little obscure. What can you tell us about We All Are Gumby?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I never heard the song before attacking this book. And this happened a lot. I mean, there were songs that just like, oh my God, really? I have never heard this before. How could this not be a part of everyone's library? And so many songs by the Turtles were so diverse in that you play one song, it's a surfer song. You play another one, and it sounds British Invasion. You know, we just lost Eric Carmen, but there's a few songs in there that I thought, wait, this wasn't the Raspberries before the Raspberries? Right. There's so much of that stuff I found in the book. Well, I came across this one treasure, and it's a Beatles song. It is so much a Beatles song, it's insane. Every bit of it is the Walrus and other songs combined. And if you're a Beatles fan and you want to hear more of the Turtles, go for this song you've never heard of, We Are Gumby, and you will be blown away.
Once again, we're chatting with Charles Rosenay. He's co-author of the book Not Just Happy Together, The Turtles from A to Z, AM radio to Zappa. And, you know, notably, the Turtles are one of those bands that's always mentioned in the same breath as the Wrecking Crew, the idea that the Wrecking Crew played on all of their records. But is this correct?
No, actually not. And this is one of the reasons why I say the Turtles should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and not to take away from the Beach Boys or the Monkees or the Mamas and the Papas or one of dozens of bands that, of course, used either the Wrecking Crew, or if you were in England and you were the Herman's Hermits or whatever, you used whatever musicians are. See, those acts all had big money behind them. They had labels that said, hey, we have the money to bring in more professional musicians, and we want them to knock this out in a day. So we're getting in Hal Blaine, you know, to play drums. You know, we're getting in Tedesco to do guitar, bass, whatever the musician is. Well, the Turtles were on this White Whale record label. And they knew how to put out some hits, never knew how to put out albums. Forget about that. They had no way of promoting the Turtles album. They only were able to put across their hits. But I don't know if they were too cheap or they didn't have the resources to get other musicians. It was like, hey, Turtles, you're going in there, you're recording your songs, you know them better than anybody. And every note and every bass line and every drumlet and everything else and every vocal and every harmony, it's the Turtles. I mean, there's not a lot of bands from that era you can say that about, aside from the Beatles? I mean, so that's a perfect case of just the opposite of what was the norm. The norm was you heard Peter Noon, you heard Mickey and Dave, you heard the main vocalists with all the greatest studio musicians of the time. Here you heard the Turtles with the band playing everything. And the other thing I want to bring out, which sets them aside, I think all the bands that I really love, and there's tons of them, but who comes to my brain first? It's the Monkees, the Beatles. The Turtles fit the same bill in that they just weren't music. They were high personality, and they were humor. And I love that. I've always loved that in an act. And if you go see whatever's left of the Turtles now in the Happy Together tour, Mark Volman is still funny. He's still teasing the crowd. He's still goofing on himself. And they always took their music seriously, but they didn't take themselves seriously. You know, whether it was on stage, going off on a tangent and covering and playing another song that popped in their head, or Mark Volman doing acrobatics with a tambourine. It was to amuse the audience. I love that. I love when it's not just the band standing there and playing song after song without personality. This band was personality plus.
And they took that personality, and it really meshed well with the surreal humor of Frank Zappa and company.
Well, yeah. So that you say, wait, this Turtles AM band who put out all these hits wound up with Zappa. It makes sense. Zappa also had that sense of humor, and he said, well, these guys, they can sing. I mean, they would be a great part of my band, and it was like a musical match made in heaven. And what people don't realize is beyond Zappa, they were the background vocalists for Springsteen on Hungry Heart. They were with Mark Bolan on T-Rex's Bang a Gong. I mean, there's literally tons of songs where you had Mark Volman as the harmony, and you had Howard Kalin doing those leads, and what a lead singer he was.
So where can people go to get the book?
They can knock on my back door. The best way is there's a website is www.notjusthappytogether.com. The official title of the whole book is Not Just Happy Together, The Turtles from A to Z, AM radio to Zappa, which it sums it up. But yeah, not just happy together. It just fits. I'm obviously a huge fan of the Turtles, so anything I'm going to say is not going to put them down in an interview. But yeah, there's a ton of clunkers. I mean, if you read the book, I'll say I don't even know why they put it out, or where's the chorus, or maybe this would have been better if it was more than a minute and 20 seconds. There's a lot of that. There's a lot where I will critique, but there's so many more that how does the world not know? And I hope if someone picks up the book, they're going to pick it up, obviously, because they're already a Turtles fan. Great. They're going to get it. They're going to love it and all that. But it's the ones that might be on the fence who say, well, yeah, of course, I know their hits, but I don't know much about them. They're the ones who are going to love the book, and as they go through it, they're going to you go Spotify or YouTube or however they can find the song, and it'll be fun to see if they agree with Mark Arnold, my co-author, or if they agree with me, or if they form their own opinion. In any case, if more people are turned on to the Turtles, and if this book somehow miraculously gets them into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, then it was worth the 66 pages of work that took us a few years to make. So the website is notjusthappytogether.com. If they go there, they can get a signed copy. They just want to get it the quickest way possible, obviously on Amazon. And I think when you really eat the book, you understand it's also then interviews with all the guys, who were connected with the Turtles. And they were interesting because as they toured through the years, they would have, for economic reasons, and it made sense, and I'm shocked other bands haven't done that, it would be Flo and Eddie, Mark and Howard, and in the West Coast when they were playing, they had their West Coast band. And when they were on the East Coast, they had an East Coast band, so they didn't have to fly people back and forth. And it's crazy how many people played with them. Greg Hawkes from the Cars was in their West Coast band. Mitch Weissman, one of the original Paul McCartney and Beatlemania, was a bass player. So it's really cool to hear what these guys have to say. And that's a really important part of the book, is the interviews, especially because, and I don't know if it's his last one ever, but as far as I know, the last interview granted by Howard Kalin is the one that is in the book that I was able to do with another interviewer, and I'm very, very proud of that.
So before we go, let's talk about one more song. Let's talk about Eleanor.
Yeah, because the record label said, hey, come on, guys, you haven't had a hit in 2 weeks. Can't you write something yourselves like Happy Together? They're thinking, well, sure we can. What they did is the same way that Happy Together, so how is the weather, which is that really little line that never made sense and probably shouldn't have been in there, but everyone remembers.
Sure.
With Eleanor, it's et cetera. The word et cetera is in there, and it's one of those words you wouldn't hear in any other song, but it makes that one bit of it a little different and a little, okay, I'm going to remember that. So that was sort of their Happy Together twisted, and it was a hit. It was a hit the same time, and then You Showed Me was a hit around the same time also. And then they also had charting stuff after that, but those were the two ones that are probably ingrained in our memory as their last two biggies.
Once again, the book is Not Just Happy Together, The Turtles from A to Z, AM radio to Zappa, by our guest today, Charles F. Rosenay, and his co-writer, Mark Arnold, who we need to spend a little more time talking about Mark because he has really made a name for himself as the guru of pop culture. I mean, he seems to be an expert on everything.
He is. We'll throw in a plug. He's got a new book out on Mad Magazine, which is very exciting for someone, going outside of the music genre. If you read Mad Magazine growing up, you're definitely going to want a copy of his new book. And him and I are working on another musical project, so hopefully we'll have that out before Christmas.
Well, we'll have you back on then. Thanks so much, Charles. You have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.
Take care. Bye-bye.